cool math trick. Multiply by using lines and counting dots. This was inspired by Vedic Math, posted with variations by different sources. See the last slide for the resource list. Calculate 4 times 1 using the lines and counting dots method. 4 times 1 equals... See the number 4? Replace the red X below with the number 4. Then draw 4 horizontal lines in the ones place below to the right of that number 4. The number 4 has now been written in. And there's 4 horizontal lines representing that number 4 that's in the ones place. See the number 1? Replace the red X below with the number 1. Then draw 1 vertical line in the ones place above that number 1. The number 1 has now been written in. And there's our 1 vertical red line representing the ones place. Where the horizontal lines and vertical lines cross, place a red dot. Please note, the color red will represent our ones place. Draw a red rounded square around the red dots. After counting the dots within that red shape, we will be able to determine the answer to 4 times 1. How many dots do you count? Write the answer above. 4 red dots. So we know that 4 times 1 equals 4. Double check your answer on the calculator. You're going to plug in the numbers. 4 times 1 equals 4. Write in your final answer. 4 is the final answer. Next, we will calculate 9 times 12 using the lines and counting dots method. 9 times 12 equals... See the 0? Replace the blue X below with the number 0. Draw 1 horizontal line in the tens place below to the right of that number 0. Please note, we will use the color silver to be our placeholder line to represent 0. Now the 0 has been written in. We've now drawn in 1 horizontal silver line in the tens place representing 0. See the number 9? Replace the red X below with the number 9. Then draw 9 horizontal lines in the ones place below to the right of that number 9. The number 9 has now been written in. The 9 horizontal red lines have now been drawn in the ones place. See the number 1? Replace the blue X below with that number 1. Then draw 1 vertical line in the tens place above that number 1. The number 1's now been written in. And there's our 1 blue vertical line in the tens place. See the number 2? Replace the red X below with the number 2. Then draw 2 vertical lines in the ones place above that number 2. The number 2's now been written in. And there's our two red vertical lines in the ones place. Please note, wherever there is either a silver vertical or horizontal line cross-section, place a silver dot to represent the number 0. There's our 3 silver dots. Where the horizontal and vertical blue and red lines cross, place a blue dot. Please note, the color blue will represent our tens place. Where the horizontal and vertical red lines cross, place a red dot. Please note, the color red will represent our ones place. Draw a red rounded square around the red dots. After counting the dots within that red shape, we will be able to determine the answer to 9 times 2. Those red dots represent 9 times 2. So, as we multiply the numbers in the ones place, notice that we're going to yield a response where at least one of the numbers will be in the ones place. 9 times 2 gives us 18 dots. The 8 of that 18 is in the ones place. So now we're going to write this in at the top of the page, and here's the example. We've counted the red dots, and we have 18 of them. So 18 represents 10 plus 8. Now, of course, we're going to have to carry, so we're going to add the 1 representing that 10 to the tens place. We're going to place the 8, which represents the ones place, in the appropriate spot for the answer so far. So notice we've written in 8 in the ones place and all the various places where we have that listed. Now we're going to draw a blue rounded square around the blue dots. After counting the dots within those blue shapes, we will be able to determine the answers to the 2 in the ones place times the 0 in the tens place, and the 1 in the tens place times the 9 in the ones place. So the rounded blue square is around the 2 silver dots, as that represents the 2 in the ones place being multiplied by the 0 in the tens place. And as you know, 2 times 0 always, always, always equals 0. Thus, we have silver dots there to represent 0. Now we have the rounded square around the 9 blue dots that represents the 9 in the ones place being multiplied by the 1 in the tens place. Now we're going to draw a yellow rounded square around the lone silver placeholder dot. After counting the dot within that yellow shape, we will be able to determine the answer to the 1 in the tens place by the 0 in the tens place. The rounded yellow square is around the 1 silver dot, as that represents the 1 in the tens place being multiplied by the 0 in the tens place. And as we said before, anything multiplied by 0 is always, always, always 0. It's now time to count up the blue dots. As you see, we have 9 blue dots, which equals to 0 in the tens place plus 9 in the ones place. Now, if you remember, we had 18 red dots, so we had to carry over. So we're going to add 1 to the tens place at this point. So now instead of 9 dots, we essentially have 10 dots, which equals 10 in the tens place, really in the hundreds place, plus 0. So that 10, we're going to have to add 1 to the hundreds place, and then we need to place 0 in the appropriate spot for the answer so far. So far our answer is blank 0, 8. So write in that 0 in all the appropriate places in your answer field so far. Now it's time to count our yellow dots if we had any, but as you notice, in that field we have 1 silver dot, which equals 0. So we're going to add, remember from the previous section, the tens section, we need to add 1 to the hundreds place. So now instead of 0 dots, we have 1. And we'll place 1 in the appropriate spot in the answer field. So now you see 9 times 12 equals 108. Now let's double check our answer on the calculator. Using your calculator, plug in 9 times 12 equals, sure enough, 108, 108. Last step is to write in our final answer. And there we have it, 108. 108 is the final answer to 9 times 12. Here's one last peek. Here's our next problem. We're going to calculate 22 times 44 using the lines and counting dots method. See the number 2? Replace the blue X below with the number 2. Then draw 2 horizontal lines in the tens place below to the right of that number 2. The 2 has now been written in, and there's our 2 horizontal blue lines representing 10 plus 10 equals 20. See the number 2? Replace the red X below with the number 2. Then draw 2 horizontal lines in the ones place below to the right of that number 2. The 2's now been written in, and there's our 2 horizontal red lines in the ones place. See the number 4? Replace the blue X below with the number 4. Then draw 4 vertical lines in the tens place above that number 4. The number 4 now has been written in, and there's our 4 vertical blue lines in the tens place. See the number 4? Replace the red X below with the number 4. Then draw 4 vertical lines in the ones place above that number 4. The number 4 now has been written in, and there's our 4 vertical red lines in the ones place. Where the horizontal and vertical red and blue lines cross, place a blue dot. Please note the color blue will represent our ones place. Where the horizontal and vertical red lines cross, place a red dot. Please note The color red will represent our ones place. Where the horizontal and vertical blue lines cross, place a yellow dot. Please note, the color yellow will represent our hundreds place. Draw a red rounded square around the red dots. After counting the dots within that red shape, we will be able to determine the answer to 2 times 4. Now notice, multiplying the numbers in the ones place will yield us a response where at least one of the numbers will be in the ones place. In this case, since we have only 8 red dots, the answer is all in the ones place. There's no part of that answer that will be in the tens place. Now we're writing that in above. 8 red dots equals 0 from the tens place plus 8 in the ones place. So now we can write in our answer so far, placing 8 in the appropriate spot for the answer. 8 goes in the ones place. Draw a blue rounded square around the blue dots. After counting the dots within those blue shapes, we will be able to determine the answers to 4 in the ones place times 2 in the tens place, and 4 in the tens place times 2 in the ones place. The rounded blue square is around the 8 blue dots, as that represents the 4 in the ones place being multiplied by the 2 in the tens place. The rounded blue square is around the 8 blue dots, as that represents the 2 in the ones place being multiplied by the 4 in the tens place. So now we're going to write that in above. Counting our blue dots, you see that we have 16 blue dots, which would be 10 plus 6. So that 10 we have to carry over. So we're going to add 1 to the tens place in the next round. So now we still have 10 plus 6. So the 10 is going to go into our hundreds place. We're going to add 1 to the hundreds place in the next round. And then that 6 we're going to place in the appropriate spot for the answer so far. So far our answer is blank 6, 8. Draw a yellow rounded square around the yellow dots. After counting the dots within that yellow shape, we will be able to determine the answer to 4 in the tens place times 2 in the tens place. The rounded yellow square is around the yellow dots, as that represents the 2 in the tens place being multiplied by the 4 in the tens place. And of course 10 times 10 equals 100, so that's why these yellow dots are in the hundreds place. So now we're going to write in, continuing on with our answer. If you count all the yellow dots, you see that we have 8 yellow dots, which equals 8. Now remember from the previous round, we needed to add 1 to the hundreds place. So now we have essentially 9 dots equals 9. And we're going to place that 9 in the appropriate spot for our final answer. So as you see, 22 times 44 equals 968. 968. Now Now let's double check our answer on the calculator. Plug in 22 times 44 equals 968, 968. Now we're going to write in our final answer. And there it is, 968, 968 is the final answer to 22 times 44. And there's one last peek. Here's our next problem. We're going to calculate 103 times 20 using the lines and counting dots method. We're going to go a little faster now that you have the hang of it. So we have 103 times 20. Now, without me saying too much, watch what happens. There's our 1 in the hundreds place, and our 1 horizontal yellow line, our 0 in the tens place, and a silver placeholder line, because of course that's going to be 0, and our 3 in the ones place, and our 3 horizontal red lines. So there's our 103 so far. All right, we've written in 0 in the hundreds place, and there's our silver placeholder line. 2 has been written in the tens place, and there's our 2 vertical blue lines representing the tens place. And there's our 0 in the ones place with a silver placeholder vertical line. So now we have 20 there. 103 times 20. Here's all of our dots. All right, we're going to count the red dots in the ones place. Multiplying 0 times 3, of course, gives us nothing but silver dots representing 0. So 3 silver dots equals 0. So we're going to place 0 in our ones place field in our answer so far. Okay, now we're going to count our blue dots. As you see, we have 6 blue dots. So 6 blue dots equals 0 in the tens place. There's going to be nothing to carry, plus 6. So we place 6 in the tens place portion of the answer so far. Now we're going to count our yellow dots. But as you see, all what would have been yellow dots are all silver. So 0 silver dots equals 0. There's going to be nothing to carry, so place 0 in the hundreds place portion of the answer. Now we're going to count our green dots, which are in the thousands place. So we only have 2 green dots, so 0, there's going to be nothing to carry over to the 10,000s place. But we do have 2 in the thousands place, so write that in. 103 times 20 equals 2,060. Let's double check that answer in the calculator. Plug in 103 times 20 equals 2,060. Write in that final answer. And there it is. 2,060 is the final answer. The answer to 103 times 20. And there's one final peek. All right, now let's calculate 1,111 times 321 using the lines and counting dots method. All right, 1,111 times 321. There's our 1 in the thousands place, represented by one horizontal green line. There's our 1 in the hundreds place, represented by a yellow horizontal line in the hundreds place. There's our 1 in the tens place, represented by that blue horizontal blue line. I already said blue, in tens place. And there's our 1 in the ones place, represented by a 1 red horizontal line. Okay, there's our 0 in the thousands place. Since we have 4 digits on the left, we have to have 4 digits on the right. So there's our 0 in the thousands place, represented by that silver placeholder line. There's our 3 in the hundreds place, represented by 3 vertical yellow lines in the hundreds place. There's our 2 in the tens place, represented by the 2 vertical blue lines in the tens place. And there's our 1 in the ones place, represented by 1 vertical red line in the ones place. Add all of our dots, and there they are. Now we have a red rounded square around the 1, which is 1 times 1 equals 1. Now we have our tens place rounded squares, representing that we have 2 in the tens place times 1 in the ones place. And we have 1 in the tens place times 1 in the ones place. And there's our hundreds place rounded squares. Those are the rounded squares for the thousands place. Those are the rounded squares for the 10,000s place. That's the rounded square for the 100,000s place. And finally, that's the rounded square for the millions place. All right, let's count the red dot. We have 1 red dot, so equals 0, nothing to carry, plus 1, and place in 1 in the ones place field and all our various answers. Now we count our blue dots. Notice we have 3 blue dots. So 3 blue dots equals 0, nothing to carry, plus 3. So write in 3 in the tens place field and all the various answers. Okay, let's count our yellow dots. We have 6 yellow dots. 0, nothing to carry, plus 6. So write in 6 in the various answer fields in the hundreds place. Now let's count all of our green dots in the thousands place. Notice we have 6 green dots. So that equals 0, nothing to carry, plus 6. So write in 6 in all the various answer fields in the thousands place. Now we're going to count our purple dots in the 10,000s place. Notice we have 5 purple dots, which equals 0, nothing to carry, plus 5. Write in the 5 in the various answer fields. Now let's count our dots in the 100,000s place. We have 3 cyan dots, which equals 0, nothing to carry, plus 3. So write that in our answer field, and we get 356,631. Let's double check that answer on the calculator. Plug in 1,111 times 321 equals, yes, 356,631. Write in the final answer And there it is, 356,631. That is our final answer to 1,111 times 321. And here's one last look. And that is the end of this show. I'll leave this up for a little while so you can see the various resources. Thank you for listening and have a wonderful day.